Hello, everyone. My name is Brendan Lundquist, and this is the AWS Q2 2022 updates. So, point of this video is just for me to share some pertinent updates in the realm of data and analytics that are sort of coming or are available within AWS as of this quarter. So, a little bit about myself. As I said, my name's Brendan. I'm based in Boston, and I'm a data and analytics consultant for Thorogood. If you have any questions regarding this video or any other topics, don't hesitate to reach out. Happy to speak with you about that. So that being said, let's get right into it. So for those that maybe aren't as familiar with AWS, it does offer a slew of different product offerings, ranging from relational databases, ETL tools, and machine learning services as well. So I've really pictured just 6 of their over 200 distinct product offerings on the screen here. While they're making, some updates to each and every one of them, I'm really going to drill into a couple of updates to Sagemaker and Glue that we found particularly interesting in data analytics. So these updates have all come in the second quarter, as I've kind of mentioned, the year 2022. So I think it's not important to not only understand what these latest updates are, but also understand how they can practically be applied to businesses across a variety of verticals. So without further ado, I'll briefly run through serverless inference and the insights into data and data quality features report within Sagemaker before changing it up to speak a bit about sensitive data detection in Glue. So to kick us off here, Sagemaker is AWS's ML as a service offering that can be used by data scientists and developers alike to build and train robust ML models, and subsequently deploy them to a production environment where your different insights can be gleaned by your end users. And once in production, there are 4 different model inferencing options to infer results from your data. So those 4 are, real-time inference to enable your experiments to run on your data in real time. You have asynchronous inference, which queues new model runs when invoked by a user and runs them accordingly. So this kind of inferencing is particularly useful with larger requests from a payload and processing time perspective. So these requests can be processed one by one throughout a queue as opposed to something real time. Batch transform, which as the name suggests, is to run models on large swaths of data without the need for a consistent endpoint. And finally, we have serverless inference, which is ideal for workloads that are intermittent. So serverless inference automatically scales, provisions, and turns on and off compute based off the volume of inference requests coming in. Additionally, if you find that your traffic is beginning to become more regular, you can actually transition your serverless endpoint to a real-time one to keep up with your users. Serverless inference can really only run 200 concurrent invocations for a given endpoint. So, if you anticipate running more than that, real-time inference is your best bet. With serverless inference, there are, of course, some immediate advantages. Your data engineers and data scientists will be able to spend more time developing and experimenting with their models as opposed to meddling with maybe some of that infrastructure sitting behind it. And being that serverless inference automatically scales for you based on the requests that are coming in, you only pay for when that inference is in use, meaning that if no one is actively running against the model, then you won't be paying for it. And finally here, you'll be able to integrate your serverless inference within your MLOps pipelines and subsequently register and deploy those models within your model registry. Now, this is obviously important when, marking and deploying models for production, managing different versions, and automating deployments as well. So that's serverless inference. I'll stick with Sagemaker still, but maybe talking a bit more about some functionality coming to Datawrangler. So Datawrangler is a tool that simplifies the cumbersome process of data cleaning and overall preparation. It's low code, and it comes with 300 built-in data transformations so that you can get your data cleaned up so that it can be used most effectively by your ML models. You can also write some custom transformations utilizing PySpark, SQL, or Pandas, as well if the operations that you're really looking to do are maybe a bit more complex than those 300 built-in transformations. Now, with these transformations that you can do within Datawrangler, a data and insights report will subsequently be generated, which will provide high-level stats into your data source, like summary statistics. So high-level stats on row count, features, duplicates, etc., to really get that high-level view on what's actually within your data. You can also be prompted with some data quality warnings to point to potential outliers, and we'll actually display them in a report for you. You'll get some important information regarding your features, and some corresponding details on those. And finally, this report will also detect some anomalous and duplicate rows within your data set. It'll really highlight to see if that's something that you may be expecting. So pretty interesting, pretty cool there as well. And really similar to the previous slide, this data and insights and quality report will really give your data scientists that time to, do what they do best and what they want to do, right? Model, experiment, so that you can really drive those analytically driven decisions, right? That will allow your organization to take those steps forward, right? So spending less time maybe on some of that sometimes cumbersome data quality analysis and really spend that time monitoring to provide some value. Do some screenshots here as well of what this report kind of looked like. So again, kind of what I was speaking to a bit on the last screen, we kind of have our summary statistics here. We can see our number of features, our rows, our missing and valid percentages, etc., as well as the different types of features too. You can also see within this report some insights and warnings have been generated. So in this particular example, we see potential issues of duplicate rows and some target leakage. And then finally, with our last image here, we can really see at a more granular detail, where some of those duplicate rows are, and we can make that determination as to whether that behavior is expected in our data. So switching gears a bit, kind of move on and maybe talk a little bit about Glue now. So sensitive data detection. I find this update to Glue in particular quite interesting, just because I think there are a wide variety of use cases in tons of industries around the globe. So in general, right now, Glue can identify different pieces of PII or personally identifiable information and other sensitive snippets of data, and really enable organizations to have a strong grasp of that kind of PII sensitive data that may be flowing into their given data store, and determine what they need to do in order to handle it appropriately. Whether that's removing it or obfuscating it or something else, right? And I think this is something that we've seen come up more and more with our clients at Thorogood, is of course the acknowledgement of ever-evolving privacy laws that are forming around the globe. So we think about CCPA and CPRA out in California here in the States, GDPR in Europe, but being able to have a tool that can audit and identify this personal data that's really flowing into your data environments, whether that flow is intentional or not, can help in ensuring that organizational policies are really being followed and adhered to. So again, I got some screenshots just going to show some of the capability here within this sensitive data detection tool, but we'll start with this first one here. So sort of show you how you can detect PII that's flowing into your system. So, you have two options: detecting PII in each cell. It's going to scan the entire data set, and detecting fields containing PII, that option that's selected on the screen there, will detect the sample of your given data set based off of those two boxes that you can sort of fill out. So sample between 1 and 100% of your given data set for PII, and a given threshold that you can set as well, to sort of set a trigger to determine whether a given PII entity has been identified. Speaking of PII entities, there are a slew of them, many that you can really see within this image here. So, we can see name, we can see email, we can see phone, we can see social security, and even some other line items within that HIPAA category too, to really give you a sense of some really sensitive data that could be flowing into your data store. And of course, it's something that you need to monitor. But not only can you, select from a list of patterns, right, but you can also create your own. So, if you say, for example, you have two columns and on their own, they may not be super identifiable or super sensitive. Perhaps a concatenation of those two columns is, very sensitive, and you want to be able to use that given pattern to obfuscate or remove those given records if that sort of information is sort of coming up. So pretty cool, pretty interesting. And with those entities that you're going to be identifying, there are a couple actions that you can take to enrich that data with your detection results. So creating that new column that contains that entity. You can even redact the text as well by replacing it with the string of your choice. So say, for example, you have a phone number, say it's 10 digits, right? If you sort of have that recognized, you could say replace those 10 digits by an X or an asterisk or something to sort of cover your bases and redact it and obfuscate the data. So that's really going to do it just from our quick updates from Q2 of 2022 for AWS. But if you're more interested in learning more about what Thorogood has to offer with respect to AWS, we do have some perspectives on our website. Really encourage you to check those out, and of course to reach out to me if you have any additional questions regarding these recent updates, Thorogood's experience with AWS or even beyond. So really appreciate the time. Thank you all for watching. Hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.